There we go. What's going on YouTube? This is LA Prepper and we are doing just a little bit of painting right now. We are working on some pieces that will look like that white frame piece. This is going to be the base. There's going to be a piece vertical and two pieces going up to the edge. Got two of them because there's two outriggers. Gosh, and it's a little hard to paint this on camera, or at least based on where I have it, it's a little bit hard to hold the camera and paint. Maybe I'll just do two at the same time. We're just trying to get the edges here. I'm putting on, in case you're wondering, this is a latex stain killer, or sorry, not stain killer, just a primer for the water resistance. Now, I always get criticism from my videos, constructive and or otherwise. And I suspect one of the first things someone might criticize this project is, why aren't you using an oil-based primer? Well, main reason is that to clean up brushes with an oil-based primer, you need thinner. Now, it's not that big of a deal to buy thinner, but just one more thing that I have to buy, one more thing I have to deal with. You know, I try to make life simple, so rather than buying thinner, I just like to use water-based paints. And for stuff that's not super critical, I don't mind too much. You know, if I was painting like the entire outside of my house and it was all wood siding, yeah, I would use oil-based because I think it's a little bit better. But these days, latex is pretty decent stuff. So, I mean, maybe back in the day, oil was significantly better than latex. I don't know if it's significantly better now. I'm not a professional painter, but... So why am I building this boat? Why do I really think I'm gonna bug out on this thing, or like, what's the deal, right? Well, so let's see here. I'll put these like this. So originally, the main reason that I was building this boat was because school was driving me crazy. It was really hard. Now, granted, school, when you're doing stuff like engineering, is going to be challenging anyways, but it was driving me up the wall. And I needed something to sort of take my mind off the, just off the stress, you know? So I thought, you know what, maybe I should build a boat, right? Like, I enjoy windsurfing. I was, I don't know, I was kind of like into hydrofoils and, you know, things that I'm interested in kind of wax and wane, but I've always been a little bit interested in hydrofoils. And wanted to build a boat. Boats are kind of expensive, and of course, since I'm in an apartment, trying to have a boat is, you know, I mean, technically I do have a carport spot downstairs and I could park a sailboat there, and I have thought about it, but I would love a sailboat, but I would also love to have my parking space. So, you know, kind of catch-22, right? But, yeah, so like I said, the original reason was to kind of save myself from going crazy. And then the second reason was to try to prove to some engineering companies that, you know, maybe I can design something. Now, granted, putting together a DIY boat isn't necessarily the same thing as engineering, But I wanted to show that while most engineers are, doing stuff on paper, I'm doing stuff in real life. So while they're calculating the moment and they're calculating the tension in this cable, I'm actually dealing with moments and dealing with cables and dealing with bolts that, have shear strength and tensile strength. Looking at different design considerations like water resistance. For example, sometimes engineers design stuff, not to break, but other times they're just designing stuff not to fail in the weather. Why are shipping containers made out of the type of steel that they're made out of? I can't remember. It's like Cordlane, starts with a C. But anyways, I don't know if you know this, but shipping containers, they're built with the type of metal that like steel, that when it rusts, it forms kind of a protective layer. So the outside layer will rust, but then that rust layer will stop rust from penetrating deeper. So anytime you see a container that's a little bit rusted, it doesn't mean that it's weak. What it means is just working on that protective layer. So that's kind of cool. So you might be wondering why I'm not trying to paint the whole top right now. Well, I don't know. I just kind of like painting in little segments and such, but I find that sometimes when you try to paint the whole thing, you just kind of end up with paint everywhere. So I'll just paint it in little sections. I'll paint the one side and I'll paint this edge, and this stuff actually dries. Welcome, by the way, welcome to my random viewer. You'll have to forgive me. It's a little tricky for me to, at least when I'm on my phone, it's a little tricky for me to see who's viewing and read comments. In fact, I don't even know. Show live chat messages. Sure. I don't even know how that works. Oh, wait, show. Well, theoretically, I'm showing chat messages, but I've never done that before. Good morning, Monk 2. What's up, Monk? Or Monk 2? Where's Monk 1? What have you done with Monk 1? In case you're just joining me, Monk, we are doing a little bit of work on the windsurfing frame that's going to be mounted to the middle of one of these guys. I have two surfboards, so this will go in the middle of one. The other one will go in the middle of the other. That's the frame on the back. They're gonna look something like this when they're done, right? So this is... So this is the main piece which goes on the windsurfing board, and it holds the cross member, which is that wooden piece right there. So the cross member is what goes to the two outriggers, if you will. So these pieces are going to connect the cross member, my main cross member, to the rest of the surfboard. Now previously, see that big long black PVC thing? That was my previous outrigger, but the problem was the engineer student did not do the right calculations, and that thing did not have nearly enough buoyancy to It was kind of a disaster, to be honest, when I took it out to the water. The only time that I've taken it out to the water. But it's all right. Live and learn. Making a boat is not for everyone. It might not even be for me, but there's only so many things you can do at 5 o'clock in the morning or 5:42 in the morning. And I suffer, or I am blessed with, depending on how you look at it, that type of personality that just doesn't like to sit around. If I'm sitting around for 5 minutes, I get restless. I mean, shit, I'll get restless in 20 seconds. It's it's kind of an affliction. So I like to be busy and I like to be active. And in an apartment, it drives me up the damn wall. Because like yesterday, I'm cutting these pieces of wood and I'm like laying out the extension cord and I'm taking up the whole front area. And I'm like, oh, I hope I don't upset this neighbor. And I hope my landlord doesn't come and, complain at me. Months ago, I was sanding one of the surfboards and he's all looking at me like, oh, just want to check out what the noise is. And I'm like, because he's thinking somebody's doing voluntary repair work on the apartment. Like anyone other than me would volunteer to fix up this dump that I'm living in. But yeah, so I don't make a lot of noise. I've been a little nervous about that, so that's kind of the reason that haven't been done a lot of work on my frame. But yesterday was the last straw. Yesterday I was thinking, God damn it, I gotta get this freaking thing built, or at least get it closer to being built. You'll have to forgive me if my painting looks a little bit brutish, maybe? Amateur. But it's the first coat, and one thing I find that I really like to avoid is having I don't mind having a light coat, but I want to make sure that I'm really getting down there into all the grains. And thanks man, because this is not finished plywood, because I'm cheap and I didn't want to buy a $50 piece of finished plywood, the rough grains really take up a lot of paint. So, first coat is kind of light. I will probably do similar to that piece of frame. I think I did 2 coats of primer and 1 or 2. I think I actually did two top coats on that, but I have some like outdoor stain sealer or something. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, this whole thing is a little bit impractical for me. I'm living in the apartment. Part of the reason I wanted it to be all modular and out of surfboards and stuff rather than just go buy a little sailboat is because I wanted to keep it in my apartment. So even though, 3 surfboards or 2 surfboards and a windsurfing board does take up a little bit of space, it's not terrible. I can still live in the apartment, right? But I recommend it. I recommend projects, and granted, I started on this project a year ago, so this is definitely one of those projects where it's like, oh, I've been working on this for a year. But at the same time, sometimes things just take time. I mean, I spent months on that frame, mostly because it was the first time I was making a frame, mostly because, I don't have a ton of power tools, so I'm getting out the skill saw and doing all crazy stuff instead of just, if I had a chop saw, maybe I would have got done with the first part a lot faster, right? But it's okay. Tell me, Mark, just out of curiosity, how are your, what kind of stuff are you working on for your prepping? I don't do a lot of live videos. I'm just going to keep rambling on here if I don't get some viewers, a little more viewer feedback. Anyways, what is going on today? Today is Thursday. I have class later this evening. Class on Tuesday was fun. We had a quiz on similarity. Super exciting stuff. Today I'm actually going to go see my little... Well, she's not my... Okay, so technically I can call her a cousin when I'm talking to her, but she's my... Oh, I always get this stuff wrong. She's my cousin's kid, which makes her something like my second cousin once removed, or... I don't know. But anyways, I'm going to go see my aunt, my uncle, and my cousin's kids. Because my mom is kind of weird sometimes. She bought me a couple pairs of jeans, I guess, which you would think she subscribed to my channel, like she heard about the dog attack and bought me a couple pair of jeans. But I don't think she's a subscriber. How funny would that be, right? If you make a video and your mom's like, good job, you know, great work on the video. I wouldn't, you know, that'd be fine. That'd be sweet, I think. But yeah, so my mom, you know, like buys me random stuff like this sometimes, and rather than just ship it to the house, we'll do the Pollock delivery system, whereas one person in Oakland buys it, and then someone from Seattle drives down in their car, and then the jeans go to the person that's driving down in their car, and then I drive my car from where I am over to Long Beach to go get these jeans. Well, I'm not the biggest supporter in big business. I think it'd be a little nicer for the environment if they just shipped the jeans to me at my front door, but it's okay. Oh, Jesus, I almost dropped the paintbrush on the ground. That's not good. So, Mark, if you're still hanging out, just out of curiosity, what are you working on for your preps? What kind of projects you got going on? You got food projects, security projects, storage projects? Are you all finished prepping? Are you new to prepping? Do you believe in prepping? I'm always curious what other people think about it because, you know, unless I'm watching a video, you never really know. And it's one of those things kind of like, you know, being enthusiastic about firearms or about the Constitution that can be kind of a polarizing thing these days, you know? I just watched a really interesting video. This guy's talking about people, you know, foods, not like a food scare, but these rushes to the store in the UK because there's a storm coming and all this stuff. And, you know, people are buying alcohol and toilet paper and water and whatnot. But it cracks me up because, you know, a week ago, if you were to talk to those same people who are in the store about, you know, oh, have you ever thought about buying cash, corn, beans, rice? Yeah, I feel that. I actually just got so you have a Coleman stove. You have the regular, like, liquid propane, not liquid propane. Are you on the liquid Coleman stove or the gas Coleman variety? Just out of curiosity. I just got a stove from a viewer. Dual fuel. Wow. That seems like the perfect prepper solution, right? You can run the liquid or the gas stuff. I like that. That's really cool. Right now I'm on the one fuel, the liquid denatured alcohol or burning wood, but that's okay. All right, let's switch. All right, next question I have. Buddy boy, do you do any hunting, Monk? Oh, I think I said Mark or Mike or something. Do you do any hunting? I took my hunter safety course a month ago. I'm going to get my license come July, because they're only good for the calendar year, July through July. But looking to get into a little bit of hunting. Probably not the cheapest way to get meat, but I gotta be honest, once I get this, like Hooples. Well, I tell you, if you ever wanted to make some videos on some good vegan cooking, I'm sure there are a lot of videos on YouTube on that stuff, but I'm not necessarily dying to go more vegan overnight, but I'm also not necessarily opposed to it. I just need to learn a little more about how to not be hungry all the time. That's my biggest challenge in life, is I'm always hungry. Like right now, I am hungry, and I should be making some oatmeal or something. I don't know if you're subscribed to Hooples, Monk, but you should check out Hooples Cat Prepping. He's a Canadian. He's a prepper. He's Canadian. He's vegan. He's super cool. I don't know if he does a lot of stuff about being vegan on his channel. He cooks vegan once in a while, but so follow-up question, Monk. If you are vegan, does that mean that all your food preps are plant-based? So do you have a garden? Or are you planning on bartering for vegetables? I'm curious. Of course, the nice thing about being vegan, you know, beans and rice and stuff like that last for a really long time, so. Gosh, I'm starving. Ugh. Small bacon garden, balcony garden. I was gonna say, I would be surprised if you had a little bacon garden, Monk. Balcony garden in my Colorado apartment. That's really interesting. You know, I have a front deck that could get some milk here. I'm starving. I have a front deck that or not a deck, but like a area where everyone else walks, which I guess I could have a plant or two, but I'm just not, I don't know. I'm not personally trying to go through all this trouble just to have a, like 3 or 4 plants, you know what I mean? And I'm not sure if I get enough sun, because like right now, this is south, the sun's rising over here in the east and it's setting over there. So my balcony is out here, or my front walkway area anyways, that is shared between the apartments next to me. You know, in the summer it'll be a little bit better, but right now there's only like I don't know, 2 or 3 hours of kind of decent light that I would be able to grow stuff. So I don't know if you know something that only wants 3 hours of decent-ish light. Southern exposure's a must. Yeah, I know. Or at least I thought I knew. I mean, unless I'm growing, well, even like potato, yeah, plants just want all that sun. That's what kills me about being in California, is that I could be growing so much stuff, you know. Like every time I'm at my house or my apartment, just like wondering, like, what can I do to be more prepared for the future? You know, it's just hard to like move in that direction sometimes when I'm like, I want to just build something, I want to make something, I want to create something. Which is why I'm making a sailboat at 6 in the morning. I mean, how many preppers are working on a sailboat at 6 in the morning? I must be like the only one. Crazy. But that's okay. So, Monk, since you're the only one here, are you going to bug in or bug out? Right? The question on everyone's mind. Do you bug in or bug out? Texas. So you have family in Texas that have some land or maybe a better situation, and you would try to bug out to Texas from Colorado. Man, that would be a hell of a bug out adventure, wouldn't it? Trying to go all the way from... Man, like you could try to take your car, right? But you'd have to have enough gas. If all the gas stations were going out, I wonder how many gallons you'd have to take with you to make it all the way, presuming that the roads and stuff weren't blocked. So in your future, Monk, do you plan on might have to walk? Yeah. And I've thought about that, right? Like I'm looking at land. I'm not working full time right now, so I don't have, thousands of dollars in the bank to go buy some land up in California, but part of me thinks I should try to find something close, right? So that I can work on it in the weekends or maybe even live out there while I commute to work. And then the other part of me thinks, like I was looking at some gorgeous land in Mendocino that had like trees and a creek and really nice piece of property, something like $15,000. And to find something similar around here potentially could cost up to twice as much, give or take, maybe $25,000, $30,000. So it's like I could buy something locally that's more expensive and be in debt longer, but it would be closer to where I can actually put energy into it. Or I could buy something a little further away that's a little more difficult to work on, but it might be a more ideal location, and maybe I could kind of like try to move closer when I get older, right? I have to admit, this prepping business almost makes me wonder whether or not I even want to buy a house in the city. I used to think that I would buy a house in the city and then like move to the country eventually, when I could afford it or whatever. But part of me thinks that the more roots you put in the city, the harder it is to escape, right? You make more friends in the city, you start having kids, and your kids are going to school in the city, and people just don't leave the city. So I don't want to get trapped in the city by being in a mortgage, by being upside down, whatever. If I buy a piece of land for 10, 15, 20,000 bucks, if the whole market goes crazy, I don't really care, because I still want my piece of land. As long as I'm working or I have an ability to make the mortgage payment on the land, I think people worry about work because they worry about bills. I don't think they worry about work because they want to work. If you could eat and pay your bills and not have to work, would you really be working as much? That's like the eternal question, right? Personally, I would always be doing something with my time. I don't think I would sit around the house watch Netflix, but part of the reason to have land is to reduce the ongoing costs, right? If I have a mortgage, which is, I don't know, let's say $1,200 a month. That's pretty reasonable. It's like I don't know, like a $250,000, $300,000 house, give or take. So a $1,200 a month mortgage is not a ton of money if you're making like $60,000, $70,000 a year. But let's say you only have $6,000 in the bank, right, saved up. You're paying a $1,200 a month mortgage. Well, if you lose your job and say, God forbid, you can't find one in 6 months, you just spent your entire life savings trying to keep your house. And if you, in 6 months, still don't have a job, God forbid, if your house, let's say you're not upside down, but your house just doesn't have any equity, so maybe you can sell your house and break even, but you end up basically with nothing. And if you compare that to the buying land up in the country method, if I could get into some land for less than like $400 a month, that same $6,000, I don't know, 400 into 6,000, it's like 1.5, right? That's, what is it, 15 months of, let's see, 10 for, yeah, that's 15 months, so that's a year. So that same savings up in the country would provide you a year of mortgage payments. So I'm hoping personally to, once I get up into the land, up into some country land, try to supplement my income so that, God forbid, I stop working or I can't work or who knows what happens, that just from doing stuff for my community, you know, whether it's selling chickens or eggs or helping people repair their fences or whatever, that I could support my mortgage payment through normal activities. And if I want to, or like side jobs, right? And then if I want to work to get some real money, I can work to get real money. But I would love to be in a situation where even if things all go to crap, even if it's for a few months and, you know, like even a Katrina, you know, Hurricane Katrina wasn't just stressful, wasn't just, you know, ruining people's lives because it was tearing down their homes. It was ruining people's lives because if you're month to month and you only have a few months savings and then a big natural disaster comes along, you know, the insurance company is going to say, oh, go buy a hotel, you know, go replace, go do what you need to do and we'll reimburse you for it. Just keep the receipts. Well, the only problem is that not everyone has thousands of dollars to be spending on hotels and car repairs and all this stuff, right? So you're going to go broke before you even get $1 from the insurance company, probably. So that's kind of a fucked situation that even though, you know, Louisiana wasn't shit hits the fan forever, even if society comes back to normal, it doesn't mean that you're going to be as normal as you were when society comes back. You might be screwed. Even if you have insurance, even if you had a job, even if you were doing everything right, you know, life can still come at you and say, boom, you're done. Nothing personal, but you're screwed. So we're trying to avoid that. I think I'm going to move this here just a little bit. Oh, maybe that's good. Yeah, it's probably better with the tripod. I'm always making people dizzy with my camera work. So if you don't mind me asking, Monk, what are some of your prepping goals for 2018? concealed carry permit. Yeah, you know, just be glad you don't live in California, man, because a lot of the urban areas, like LA, trying to get one in LA County, yeah, no. San Francisco, no. Oakland, probably not. San Mateo, probably not. San Francisco, I already said that. But so around here, the rural counties do a little bit better with that. I'm actually looking to go out to San Bernardino for several reasons. One of them being the one that you mentioned, because the sheriff out there is a little bigger believer in the Constitution than most people, which is cool. But yeah, that is... Yeah, I mean, I would have concealed carry higher on my list right now, but I don't think there's any chance that I'm going to get it in LA County. So I'm not even trying, which, isn't that sad when you know, I'm not like the biggest Constitution thumper. I don't carry a copy around with me where I go, but if the Constitution says you have the right to bear arms, and the state of California is saying, no, you don't have that right. You know, we learned in school that the federal government, not only does the federal government supersede the state government, but the state only gets those rights which haven't already been expressly granted to the federal government. And since these rights are given to us, but the people, by the federal government, I'm not sure how the state can legally come in and say, no, you don't have this right. You know, the federal government's the one that grants the right, not the state. So for the state to come back and say, actually, you can't do this, seems very unconstitutional to me. But the funny thing about the Constitution is that you only get, you know, it all comes down to what a panel of judges says, right? Now, I don't know if there's a better system than that, but it just seems fucked. You know, it almost makes you wonder if we had robots in charge of our politics, which probably would be a terrible idea. But if we did, if we had a robot judge and the robot said, you know, if you programmed into a robot, federal government supersedes the state government, and then you program in the Constitution, you program in the stuff about bear arms, the computer would look at it just the way I do and say, well, an arm is a firearm, okay. The right to bear arms, what does bear arms mean? And the computer would probably say, oh, well, according to the federal government, you have the right to bear arms. And if you tried to tell the computer that the states were trying to limit the federal government, the computer would say, well, that doesn't really make sense. But the problem is that the states will enact a law, and until it is challenged and found to be unconstitutional, you can basically keep doing, you know, the states can keep doing whatever illegal thing they're doing, like supporting illegal immigration for one. And the federal government has to like go through all these hoops just to prove that what they're doing is illegal. It's a very, you know, if you attack someone on the street, we already know that that's assault and there's no constitutionality that you need to be challenged. But you can do something so obscurely unconstitutional, you know, maybe not obscure, but you can do something clearly, maybe not so clearly unconstitutional, but seemingly clearly unconstitutional, like limit someone's ability to own firearms. And then all of a sudden it takes 5 or 10 years in court for society to figure out what the hell's going on. Just kind of drives me crazy. But, anyways, so now we got our first coat of primer on this piece, and you can tell, like, looking at the shape. So this is kind of a double of this, right? So this is just a half. And the reason that it's like that is because this piece goes like this on the boat. So Kontiki, yeah, I know, right? One of my subscribers, forgive me, I gotta make some coffee, was mentioning that movie. You know, I've never seen the old version, but yeah, this Norwegian guy got on a boat and freaking sailed this thing to Peru across an ocean, some crazy thing. And the, you know, of course, the trailer has him like fighting sharks and whale sharks and all this stuff. But Thor Heyerdahl. Wow, I'm impressed. Did you know that from memory, Monk, or did you look it up? Anyways, yeah, you know, maybe I'm just a crazy Norwegian. I don't have any Norwegian blood in me. I don't think, anyways. But childhood book. That's cool. But yeah, so these pieces are going to look like this. I got some 2x4 up here, and in fact, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about the support in this direction, right? So these ones just have the one brace like that, and I'm probably going to put an extra brace on this side so that this is kind of mirrored, it's symmetrical. It's going to add a little bit of weight. You know, these are a little bit heavy, and I do need as much flotation from the surfboard as I can get, but, you know, what are you going to do, right? Oh, how am I going to put this back here? Well, Monk, I appreciate you hanging out with me during my little morning painting project. I'll have to take a look at your channel and see if you're making any videos, and sub and like and comment and all that stuff. But until next time, and you know, for what it's worth, take some videos of your little balcony project. You know, it might not be something I can reproduce, but maybe someone else can reproduce it. You know, I think no matter what you're doing in this life, if you're trying to be productive and you're trying to be sustainable, that you should try to share it with people, because just a little bit of motivation, I think, can go a long way. So until next time, thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you around.